Hey guys, welcome back to the BuzWeaver channel. And in our top stories today, I kind of just want to highlight some things that have been going on, of course, as you know, there in LA. So from the Washington Examiner, Trump's historic use of Title X and the legal battle to follow. President Donald Trump sidestepped state power over the weekend by activating a rarely used federal authority to deploy 2,000 National Guard troops to Los Angeles to quell protests over his immigration policies. Trump called Title X a federal law that outlines the role of the U.S. Army forces to bypass Governor Gavin Newsom handling of the situation. Title X allows the president to put National Guard troops under federal command under the conditions if the United States is invaded or faces a threat of invasion, if there's a rebellion against federal authority, or if the president is unable to enforce federal laws using regular forces. So obviously, the interpretation here is that, well, there's a couple things. One, the left and Democrats aren't necessarily accustomed to a politician saying they're going to do something and then them actually doing it, right? Now, I know that's a bit tongue-in-cheek, but what I mean by that, of course, is that we see politicians say certain things and promise certain things and never really transpires. But when it comes to Donald Trump, he pretty much, when he says he's going to try to do something or wants to do something, then he's going to do it. And he's not going to wait around to see if Gavin Newsom or Mayor Karen Bass is going to try to handle the situation, because they're still trying to deal with the wildfire situation. So it's clear to me that the bureaucracy, the red tape, the back and forth, the absurdity of the way politicians handle things through red tape and observing certain policies and this, that, and the other, your hands are so tied you can't even do anything. And Donald Trump is beyond that. He's like, no, we need to get things done, and we're going to get things done. Now, of course, that's not the way government works. As we've always said here, you can't run government like a business. But Donald Trump is not messing around. He is not going to wait for people to be harmed. He's not going to wait for buildings and property and other things to be burned down and just have the chaos that we have. He's taking action, because you know as well as I do, if it were up to Gavin Newsom and Karen Bass, the police would be probably in more danger than the individuals out there causing the problems, right? Because the idea, as we've always talked about when it comes to the Second Amendment, until the criminals feel more in danger than the victim, the criminals will continue to be criminals. So Donald Trump is trying to, and there's plenty of footage of all this, and we're going to talk about this. And I can't show a lot of the footage because obviously YouTube has issues with what's going on, but it cannot be ignored. It can't be ignored as to what is going on in LA. There's no way the media, as much as they want to try, or as much as the politicians want to say, we can see with our own eyes what's happening, right? Everyone can see it. The Posse Comitatus Act in 1878 law generally forbids the use of military, including the National Guard, from taking part in civilian law enforcement. Section 12406 of the Title X does not override that prohibition, but it allows the troops to protect federal agents who are carrying out law enforcement activity and to protect federal property. So the thing here is we saw this in Seattle. I believe it was in Oregon. Yeah, I think it was in Seattle. Trump wanted to protect the federal building there, so he sent the federal troops, because the governors, of course, and city officials did not want Trump to do anything there. And we saw what happened. We saw the rioting. We saw what happened right during the George Floyd riots. We saw all this. Those Democrat officials didn't do anything to stop. They didn't even arrest anybody. The DAs weren't even prosecuting anybody. And you'll often hear Antifa, like during certain times like that, saying Posse Comitatus, or in other words, mentioning the Posse Comitatus Act of 1878. But the thing here is that Trump is trying to protect the building. So when you see the Marines there, they're typically there to protect the buildings. And as I understand it, they will also be there to protect ICE and other agents. So the military, it is correct. The military shouldn't be, obviously going through our streets and doing policing action. That's why we have police. That's why we have sheriff. That's why we have all the different departments like the GBI, the Georgia Bureau of Investigation. We have the FBI. We have Homeland Security. We obviously have the contingencies in place to handle these things. But here's the problem. Newsom and Bass aren't doing it because they don't want to offend people. They don't want to offend their constituents and be perceived as, being authoritarians, which they already are. But you guys understand. So that's the generalization there. And and this is extraordinary. I want to encourage all of you guys, because I'm only going to play a little bit of this. I encourage you guys to go to Fox News and look up this. California sheriff says Newsom encouraged L.A. riots as ICE arrests violent illegal aliens. And this is kind of really kind of reinforces my argument that I'm making here. The Democrats are I say politicians in general. I don't want to blame all Democrats because Republicans are just as bad. The GOP is absolutely feckless and ineffectual. So they can say these things that we're going to do this, we're going to do X, Y, and Z, and it never doesn't really happen. But I want to play a little bit of this, but look this up, but I do want to play it so you guys can hear this.
Absolutely appalled that we are at this point in society where people come out and think that this is okay. And then it makes it 100 times worse when you have politicians that are encouraging it, that are not calling it what it is, which is criminal activity. The lying to all of us, lying to the media, and purposely using the word peaceful, while maybe they should look at their phones or their TVs, because I have law enforcement officers that are being shot at, that are being injured, that are being hurt, vehicles being damaged, things being burned, and they're calling it peaceful. It is a disgusting display of partisan politics. I wish they would all just put their phones down, be quiet, and let law enforcement handle this how it should be handled, which is the complete enforcement of law and holding criminals accountable. It's rocks, bottles, tools, weapons being thrown at us. You watched multiple vehicles destroyed yesterday by bricks. There are people hauling bricks into the zone and then dropping them off and leaving them there for weapons. And then our deputies and our police officers they're being used against us. And we're being hit with bottles. We're being hit with glass.
Sorry, guys. And so, and I know you probably wanted to watch the whole thing, but just for the purposes of time constraint and so forth, I encourage you guys to go and check these things out, because, what I want to do here on the BuzWeaver channel always is give you the brief information, give you the overview, give you the information, the summary of what's going on, and let you guys kind of investigate it and look into it yourself and make up your own minds. But what he said there was absolutely correct. And that is that we saw this in other areas, in other protests, where people were dropping off pallets of bricks or other material. And I didn't pull up this article here. Let me find it here in the BuzWeaver archive. I think here it is right here. Mysterious riot gear handed out to L.A. protesters raised questions. So this is what we saw very similar during the George Floyd riots. And that was that people were, like, you would see these random little pallets with bricks or other material on them for use, right? And you saw some of the people breaking the ballers with hammers to get rocks and stones and other things. And they do this also down in the Middle East. You'll see them collect rocks or break things to have material to throw at police officers and so forth. But ladies and gentlemen, look at this image right here. This tells you everything you need to know. The police are overwhelmed. And the idea that Gavin Newsom or Karen Bass has this under control is just not realistic. It does not comply with reality whatsoever. And it is dangerous for the police officers, because these people feel empowered. They feel emboldened. And I've seen videos of content creators like myself out there on the streets being harassed, being pushed, being shoved, putting themselves in danger. You can't even go out there to even really cover it, unless you're, either Hispanic, Latino, or other, I guess one could say, or a checkbox person. I'm not saying that it isn't possible for you to be out there to cover it, but you got to be very careful, especially if they recognize you like they recognized him, and it can be very dangerous work. But I wanted to point this out here from Peter. Donald Trump's border czar, Tom Homan, revealed that the raids that sparked the violent L.A. riots were not from immigration purposes. Homan explained that the raids that took place in downtown Los Angeles on Friday was part of a criminal investigation into a money laundering scheme and cartel activity. It wasn't an immigration raid. It was to service the 3 criminal warrants at locations based on a large criminal conspiracy that ICE is investigating. Homan on MSNBC. So you see, they don't even know what they're out there protesting or rioting for. They don't realize that if they are out there doing it, that they're actually protecting criminals, right? These are actual criminals that have committed crimes. And, of course, we want to address things like the cartel in these other areas, because we don't want officials, city officials, government officials, or even governors or mayors or others to be compromised or on the take from the cartel, because then they own you, and then they can do things like allow law enforcement not to do their work, right, or impede law enforcement. And everywhere in the United States, it is illegal to interfere with a peace officer. It is a crime in all 50 states. And here's what's remarkable, and here's what I'm talking about. Maxine Waters says she was on the streets of L.A. during the riots, saw no violence, and tells people not to trust the video. So with your own eyes, the Democrats still maintain that you need to get information from them. They'll tell you what opinions to have. They'll tell you what is actually happening and how to vote and how to support them because they've got it all under control. It's absolutely ridiculous.
Protests, and even those who were out of step with what we are advocating, peaceful protest, did not create any violence. Nobody was shot. Nobody was killed. Get it in your head. And so when martial law is called, what are you going to say? I missed the point. Don't miss the point, you all. Don't think that somehow, because they called out the National Guard, there was violence. There was no violence. I was on the street.
Now, I would agree that to an extent there are people who peacefully protest. That is absolutely correct. But it's also very selective. And they're not selective when it comes to what Donald Trump says. They're not selective when it comes to certain things that Donald Trump outlines that are specific. And I mean, I'm talking about like bullet point specifics that Trump is saying, like say when it comes to the big beautiful bill or other things. So it's only convenient to then point out in a sense of generalization that when she was there, she didn't see these levels of violence. I would hope that she wouldn't be anywhere near it, to be totally honest with you, because she, I don't want anyone to be hurt by any of what's going on, especially like you saw the rocks being thrown from the top of the bridge down onto the vehicles. It's dangerous out there. These people don't care. And if you've seen any of the videos that have been played on here on X, which you can follow me on with my link down below, it's incredible. I can't even play it on here. But it is extraordinary. So you got mysterious people out there handing out gear, and people don't understand that it was actually in relation to money laundering. And then you have the sheriff here outlining that things like Maxine Waters saying, or even Karen Bass, or even Gavin Newsom, is actually exacerbating the situation. Because for all these years, like we've said, for the last 4 years, our institutions and our culture and our justice system had been hijacked. These people were able to get away with anything and everything they wanted to do. And so you guys have to let me know down in the comments if you live in the California area or in that area, or your thoughts on that. You guys have been leaving thoughts about a lot of things lately, and I really appreciate it down there in the comment section. That helps out the channel. Of course, below this video, you can find the various social media links that I belong to include my affiliate marketing links as well. But, of course, you guys liking and subscribing and just participating on the channel is a huge help, and I appreciate all of that. And, of course, everyone on BitChute, Rumble, and Odyssey for your guys' continued support. Appearing there on the screen, that'd be the channel icon. You guys can click on that to subscribe, as well as to select notifications that we know is content here on the channel. And I'll see all you guys in the next video.